Black Raven. This wonderful little resin spaceship is available from Coruscant Miniatures. It's perfectly scaled for 15 millimeter figures. Here, I'll put our space captain. He's a robot. He stands right there, 15 millimeters tall. Comes with a lot of different options. You can replace these blasters with just a nice rounded tip. You can, of course, glue the front hatchway shut. You don't have to have the, if you want to make it look more like a fighter, you don't have to have the big cargo pod underneath. You can snap these off and it comes with nice smooth fittings down there. So it rests, looks great. This came to the channel by way of superfan Dart Mart, who several years ago, before we set up the clandestine operations, asked, how can I support what you're doing on the channel? And I said, well, I don't know, how can you? He said, well, I got this just floating around. Great. So we've used it in the chat on the videos several times. He said, then a couple of years go by and he says, oh, I want to send you something else. I was like, I don't know, what do you got? And he said, well, I've got this Science Fiction Codex of Lists. And let me begin by saying how much I appreciate that. His early support was instrumental in maintaining the momentum and the passion for this YouTube project. And it's long overdue for me to actually show you guys what the Science Fiction Codex of Lists looks like. And, by way of me thanking him for sending me these wonderful lists. So first, we're going to talk about what they are, how you can get a copy, why they might be valuable to you, and we're also going to talk about why they may not be valuable to you. And this is by way of a review. Remember, here at the channel, we much prefer to tell you what's in the box and then let you decide for yourself if it's something that you think is right for you. I don't know your story, man. I don't know your deal. How am I supposed to know if this works for you? I can only tell you whether it works or not for me. So what is this? Well, it should be pretty obvious, right? Science Fiction Codex of Lists. It's a bunch of lists, and it's suitable for miniature war games, tabletop role-playing games. I don't know, if you're writing a story and you're stumped for ideas, you could probably get away with this too. I don't know if these are AI artwork on the cover. I have a total of 3 of these. The sequel is called Codex of Lists 2, and then brace yourself. The third is called Codex of Lists 3. You also have this fantasy tome list, but we're not really going to spend so much time talking about that. We'll talk more about that when we get to whether or not you think this is for you. How do you get it? Well, it's by James Cato. This is by copyright 2012, 2019, which leads me to believe these may not be AI artwork because, 2019. That actually says here, cover art by Grand Failure, Inovari, and Tithi Loidon. I don't know if I pronounced it right. I don't know, it's probably like $20, $25. It doesn't say here on the ISBN. You'll have to look it up for yourself. James Cato, Science Fiction Codex of Lists. And look at this, 324 pages of just inspiration for you. If you find yourself stumped at the RPG table, your players are looking at you across the screen, or you're setting up a science fiction style Braunstein and you need some factions and you really only have 3 and you want to throw some more in, grab this book, run down the list, see which one of these is most appropriate for you. This is a book that would have come in very handy when I was on the road and decided to do a solo traveler campaign. If you'll recall, we wound up generating a water world that was very cold. Everyone lived in cities, in bubbles, underwater, like bubble cities, dome cities. And each of those cities was run by a mega corporation. And that was a real problem for us because, well, it was a problem for me, not so much you, because I've never done cyberpunk, that kind of corporations as government, and everything's up for the highest bidder. Brand new to me. What am I going to do? Of course, you can always just jump on the internet and say, hey, give me some cyberpunk plots. But how much quicker? And let me tell you, I had to wade through a lot of junk websites to find something that worked for me. And I guess now may be a good time to point out, if you know everything there is to know about the cyberpunk genre, you've read everything from Neuromancer to Ready Player One, although I think it's really more lit RPG. Anyway, if you're good at cyberpunk, then you're not going to buy this for the cyberpunk list. But look, we've got like 60 other lists here. So let's just, by way of showing you what the lists look like, let's turn to page. Here it is. And we've actually got 2 here, Cyberpunk Jobs and Cyberpunk Vendors. On page 44, that's where the jobs come in. And of course, these are all nice round numbers. So in the case of cyberpunk jobs, roll a D30. I don't have one of those handy. I'm just going to look at the second hand of my nearest clock. All right, 12. 12 says, grassroots. Your team has been hired to create a grassroots movement to support your clients' activities or protest an opponent's activities. There you go. So here's a good ripped from today's headlines. Just stop plutonium. Your crew has been hired to glue their hands to priceless works of art because destroying priceless and beloved works of art is how you win people over to your side. I don't understand that, but what are you gonna do? So there's your cyberpunk job. And then the question becomes, well, who's gonna dumb enough to hire our goofballs? Well, here's where cyberpunk vendors comes in. I'm looking at 51 on the clock. I know you can't see it, but it's right here. So 51, we'll subtract 30. That gives us 21. And at the result of 21, it's a sensorium. This business allows a person to live through another person's actual recorded experiences. All right, well, now we've got two random elements that we need to combine together. The sensorium is going to tell everyone you need to throw out all of your books because books will transport you to another world in a way that we don't like. We want to corner the market on that. And so we are now going to become Fahrenheit 451 style firemen, and we're going to just do a full media blitz and convince all of the dullards out there, and we'll start with the weakest link, and we'll tell all the women that nobody who's cool reads, nobody reads, and if you want to be cool, don't read, and don't let the men in your life read. And that'll capture all of the women and most of the weak-willed men. And so that's our plan for this. But wait a minute. What if we need a complication? And there's no problem here. These are in alphabetical order. Sci-fi adventure complications. 173. We'll have the women decide. We'll have the news. We'll bribe the news to tell all of the women that only weirdos read. And there's just enough truth in that. But stay tuned. We're going to talk more about that later. That only weirdos read, that it's just crazy enough to work. So what is our sci-fi adventure complication? Well, we've got D200. All right, so I roll a D100, and then there's a 50-50 chance that I have to add 100 to it. Maybe I add 0, maybe I add 100. Equal chances for all of those. And I could even, I have some dice handy here. Let me stand up and grab those. I got a D6, a D10, and another D10. So let's roll, and I'll show you on evens. It's going to be the percentile dice, and on odds, we'll add 100. All right, so there you go. So it's the percentile dice, because we rolled a 4. So we go to 71, and here on the fly, it's just taken 3 minutes to come up with a whole adventure that you can run your players through, Mother May I style. EMP projector. This device produces a massive EMP blast that will destroy any unshielded electronics within its range. Oh. All right, so the Sensorium guys have hired you to convince people that reading is dumb, and at some point, the opposition force is likely to trigger an EMP that shuts down the Sensorium, so the only thing that's interesting for people to do is read books. Kapow! Now you've got your patron, you've got your objective, and you've got your complication, and through those three, you can develop antagonists for your adventure. It's just that easy. If you don't have access to Traveler's World Generation system, and you don't want to jump online and find one of the online planet generators, you have in this book 1, there is a planet generation system. It's probably under LMNOP. There we go. Planetary options. It even comes with planetary governments. Let's take a look at those real quick. Well, first of all, let's go back a couple of pages. Planetary names. Got 100 names here for you. Hermes. And then you roll a d20 and you can give that little appellation, right? So here's Hermes Prime. It's probably going to be the planet closest to the Hermes star. We've got Bellatrix Zeta. That sounds like a good sci-fi planet name. What's it like? Well, we roll a D50 and maybe it's a desert planet. Equal odds of all of these, little different from the bell curve that you see from a 2D6 in Traveler, Machine World, Resort. And of course, you can roll one of these And if it applies, you could use this in conjunction with the Traveler planetary system. Planetary government. The nice thing about the Traveler way of generating these is that things naturally flow one to the other. High population planets are more likely to have a stronger government micromanaging everything they do. If you're not comfortable with that, if you're playing a game like Stars Without Number, maybe you're playing a game like Star Frontiers, I think there was room to generate your own planets in that. Then you want to go with a much more wide open kind of gonzo style. Then you can just have, well, we'll just roll a D66. There's no connection between the planetary government style and what kind of planet it is. A swamp planet could have a corporate state. It could have a brood. When a queen mother gives birth to all individuals in her race, so she has absolute control of her people. Oh, wow. They all worship her as their supreme brood mother and would do anything to protect her. Caste system. Lots of things that you don't see in Traveler. That's the game I'm most familiar with, most recently played. And then we've got these wonderful planetary options for things like, these world dimensional tears. They fall on a dimensional or temporal tear in the fabric of space-time, making them a gateway. Oh, look at that. We're looking at Warhammer 40k style here, right? This is, what's the planet that fell before the Guard did? I don't know, I'm drawing a blank. Drone Nexus. All robots on one half the hemisphere of the planet are controlled by the complex. If it's destroyed, the robots on this side of the world will cease to function. Oh, those poor guys. I didn't even know they were sick. Automated defense grid, floating rocks. So these are additional complications that you can have. So, that's just kind of an example of the kind of things you're looking at in the Codex Book of Lists 2. And then here's our table of contents. We've got more mecha in this one, post-apocalyptic in Book 2. Black Ops mission environments, Black Ops missions. So here we've got assassination targets. Oh, that looks good. Let's see what we got here. 10 to 12. President, interrogator, himself. Wait, your target? Because he wants to make his death look as if it was not his own decision. Oh, we're running some insurance fraud along with our assassination. That's pretty sweet. Black Ops missions. Blind them. Your mission is destroy an early warning radar array. Ambush. Destroy a military convoy. These are possible missions for Black Ops team hired by the government to keep the world safe or a corporation to get an illicit job done. Okay, so I'm sorry. I'm thinking Black Ops like the GURPS Black Ops, and this is really just more of a modern day military or near future military. What else we got here? Here's where you get your superheroes and your galactic guides, galactic guide entries. This is your jokey bits. Let's take a look. Galactic guide entries, page 52. So we're hitchhikers, and we need a guide for, say, the galaxy. The best drinks in the universe, where to get them. The end of the universe, when and why it will end. This could cause you real inconvenience. Hamburgers, the best place to get a burger. Oh, somebody's American. How to avoid the police. Which are the poorest planets? How to deal with robots that are really boring or annoying. Women, which planets have the nicest women in the universe? And how to win a maternity lawsuit. I'm not even going to speculate. I've already got myself in enough trouble in this video. Science Fiction Book of Codex List 3. More Black Ops forces. We've got megacities, Galactic Empire espionage. We've got anti-supers, armor punk, paranormal, a little bit more. So kind of random. Steampunk, space miner. This is for the guys that are belters out there. So why would you need one of these books? And the answer is because you haven't read enough novels. You're watching a video hosted by a guy that's read every Doomarest book at least once. He typically reads anywhere from 12 to 50 novels a year and has been doing so for 50 years. Figure an average of 2 books a month. I've really only been a heavy-duty reader since the age of 10. So that's only really 40 years, 480 months. That's 1,000 books, and maybe 300 of those. Well, 300 books are science fiction. That gives me everything I need to be able to run any kind of science fiction there is. Says the man who is a little weak on the cyberpunk front. Right. So these are crutches even for guys that have read enormous amounts of books. I also have the advantage that I have the collective hive mind that, a bunch of handsome guys out there sitting in front of their computers. I wish I could turn this on to the take the selfie to show you. Those guys have way more ideas than I could ever come up with myself. So I don't know that I'm going to get a whole lot of use out of these. They are very situationally dependent, and usually the games that you buy have all of the inspiration material that you need. So while this isn't the kind of thing that I see myself getting a lot of use out of, I might need that crutch from time to time, and it's reassuring to have them handy. If you haven't read more than 250 science fiction novels, if you're in your early 20s and you've only read 100 novels in any one of these genres, but and again, I'm talking about readers here, but maybe you've only seen a couple of hundred science fiction movies, then this might be perfect for you. If you're not steeped into the RPG culture, this might be perfect for you, and you should take a look at them. I'm going to close out here in just a minute, but I want to show you the Fantasy Tome of Lists. I think these are weaker than the Science Fiction Codex. I think there's less useful information here. I think any fantasy game that you would pick up that's worth its salt will have everything it needs in here for you. And I think it's a little bit harder, for example, when it comes to things like Paladins. This list is literally just 100 special abilities that Paladins might have. And not even abilities, but spells. Oh, here's a spell that makes you braver than usual. Okay, thanks, guys. Fortunes, giant names, that could come in handy. But things like rumor tables, oh, the hag is a witch. Plot twist, you can come up with better stuff than that yourself. Maybe something like the sword generator 268. Let's take a look at that real quick. And we'll see if I can prove myself wrong right here. Spell components, these should be listed in the game that you're using. Also, I'll say this. Let's compare real quick. The readability here, this text, it's sans serif. It's a little science fiction-y. It's a little bolder. This stuff is, look at all that white space. You're filling your book with ideas. Bro, bump that up by like 2-4 points maybe, okay? And most of this stuff is copper treasure, floatstone. Okay, thanks. But that's not the one I was looking for. Subterranean exploration is not it either. I was looking for tavern drink. So here you go. D6, ale, beer, cider, fruit wine, mead wine. Food, 20 items of food. Bacon, rabbits, goose, smoke. This is a waste of a page. Maybe the sword generator could help if you're sitting down and trying to come up with some fun magic items. All right, so we got I'm just going to pick 5s across the board. A pristine mithril blade that is triangular with an oval plate. The grip is wood, so we got ourselves a mithril sword with a wood grip and a square pommel. I don't understand that. Encrusted with runes and a shoulder leather frame. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, is that good? Is that something you could see yourself using? The world generation, again, not great because it's just a list of, let's see if we can see, fantasy, is it under terrain? There's locations. That could come in handy. Map terrain, roll a D88. I wouldn't even know how to generate that. Oh, it says D88, but then look down here. We've got up to 100 living forest. So a little bit of a goof right there. And each of these only has one. These are the different types of terrain and structures found on a fantasy map. This table allows you to quickly fill in hex maps, but there's no connection between hex to hex to hex. So you may wind up with your ocean lake or your lake ocean. You may wind up with your desert swamp or your swamp desert. Like, you're right next to each other. Hut, that's not really terrain. Pit, I mean, I guess. Orc encampment, that's a location. That's not a terrain type. I mean, orc encampment could appear anywhere. So I don't know, man. I just think I wouldn't go with this one. If it was me, oh look, wizard spells. If it was me, you could do so much better. I don't know. I really appreciate the thought. and having this on the shelf just in case. But you know, for my money, science fiction. If you need books of lists, I guess you know it occurs to me now that I'm filming this. This is like almost every OSR project there is. Most of the OSR, like even the best ones, like what's the one with the funnel? Dungeon Crawl Classics, right? You just bolt on a reskinned basic expert D&D to this, and then boy, you got yourself a $10,000 Kickstarter. So maybe that's what the use of this is. Just get this and like staple your Fantasy Heartbreaker BX clone to it, and then run a Kickstarter. You'll probably make like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 because there's lots of people that love buying books like that, so they can stick them on their shelves and never use them. That's all I got for you today. Till next time, I'm praying for you.